Welcome back to the Unacceptable News. I'm your host, Justin Bush. Is this stigmata? Today's story is about my own personal experiences when I was younger. I've written a book about it. You can find the link in the description to my channel page. I've had these experiences my entire life, on and off, for many years, with these UFOs and these strange creatures. A lot of people call them grays. I have seen some other creatures over the years, but I decided to try to put out at least some of my stories online in video format. A lot of people say the written word is dead. I kind of disagree, but it is true that many people are reaching for social media instead of reaching for a book or even an audio book. I mean, you just have a much larger audience watching television or online videos. So I've decided to put out some of my stories, at least in a shortened format, online on my YouTube page. You can watch them. If you feel the need to read the book, that's your personal business, has nothing to do with me. And there is a fly in today's video, and it's driving me crazy. When I garden, I have to open the door. We don't have an external spigot for our hose, so I have to open the front door for a period of time to water, and there's always a gap, and flies come in. And my girlfriend hates fly traps. She hates them. So I have to go around and hunt them like an animal every day. And it couldn't drive me more crazy. So when she leaves, I put up fly traps. I buy secret fly traps and I hide them around the house so she can't find them. And then when she comes home, I have to remember to hide the fly traps or I get in trouble. And so this is where we live now. This is my reality. So, but hey, she just thinks they're gross. I don't disagree. They're pretty gross, but I'd much rather have a fly trap that I've installed secretly full of flies than have to go around and smack flies everywhere and then wipe it up afterwards. It just drives me insane. So you'll be seeing, this is the last fly, I guess. I got all the other ones this morning, but you'll be seeing him enter the frame of view over and over. I am equipped to assassinate him should that become an eventuality, but unfortunately it looks like he's a little tricky, and while I'm recording and he flies by, I have the perfect chance to get him. You know what I mean? Like, I could really get this guy, but because I'm so focused on the stupid camera, and this is like the 7th take we've done, I kept trying to be like, oh, if I stop and then I hunt him and then I get him and then he'll stop interrupting. But after 7 takes, you're like, you know what? He's our new guest host. So everybody, I want to introduce you to Maverick because he's such a great pilot. He's just flying everywhere, this guy. But anyway, let's get back to the actual story. So I don't know if I would call myself a regular guy, but I'm certainly just a nobody, if you will, which is fine by me. I actually enjoy it that way. I prefer it. When I see other famous people and then I start making YouTube videos, I get really scared that I might end up like them, and that terrifies me. So enjoy the channel today, because if something happens where a video takes off, we're all screwed. So maybe me more than you, but anyway, so back to my story. When I was 11 years old, I lived in Delaware. I lived there most of my life. And I had a father, a stepmother, and I had 6 brothers, so 7 boys in a small trailer. When I was growing up, I have there's 3 of boys from my father's side, and then there are 4 boys from my stepmother's side. So cramped, small, pretty poor, surviving, but poor. And anyway, one of the things we used to do is go to the drive-in movie theater. And the reason we did this is because it was so cheap compared to taking 7 people to a movie where you're paying $20 a person. So ever since I was younger, we used to go to this drive-in. And in fact, my father went there when he was a teenager. It's in Felton, Delaware, and I don't know if it still exists, but this case was back in 1999. So this would have been the summer of 1999, I believe, or the summer of 2000. I can't be perfectly sure if I was just about to turn 11. I believe I had turned 11. So this may have been in fact, this probably was the summer of 2000. So anyway, in the summer of 2000, we went, the whole family packed up. I believe one of my cousins was with us. My older brother didn't come with us that night. He was 13, I was 11. He was allowed to stay home. I wasn't. I asked to stay home, and they said I was too young. So he got to stay home by himself, and we all loaded up in the van, and then we went down there, we went up to the drive-in movie theater, probably about a 45-minute, hour drive north of us. So when we got there extremely early. There are several rows, so probably 6, 7 rows that you could park in. And my father parked kind of in the middle. But then as people started to show up, he realized that he had a conversion van that's like, 8 foot tall or whatever it is. It's a 15-passenger van. So he realized that he would have to block all of these people. Is there a fly in my head? Is Maverick attacking me? This is going to be a messed up video. All right. I don't know if he landed on my head or not, but it's driving me crazy. All right. So anyway, we get there. My dad parks in the middle. He realizes that he's going to be blocking all these people, right? So he decides that he's going to back up a little bit. So he backed up towards the concession stand and parked there. And then, he is landing on my head. I'm just like Mike Pence, dude. This is going to drive me crazy. I'm just doing it. I'm doing it. Laying on my head. Go ahead. I should have put out water with sugar in it or something. So anyway, we get there. My dad moves to the very back row, or close to the back row. We're super early. So my dad got a bunch of food. Oh, we got him, folks. He died like a dog. Okay, he was crying. The terrorists have found me. Oh. It seems that Maverick is still alive, but the goose is dead. More to 11. Okay, so where were we? We're at the drive-in, right? And there's like 9 of us, 7 kids, 2 adults. And my dad parks in the back. And the problem with having a 15-passenger van at a drive-in is nobody can see the movie, right? You have 3 people in the front that can see the movie. You kind of have the next seat, it's a bench seat that can see the movie a little bit if they kind of move a little bit. But essentially, you've got 3 people, 4 people that can't see anything. So I got up on top of the van to watch the movie, and then some of my brothers got blankets out and chairs. We had beach chairs and blankets in the back of the vehicle. They laid them out on the side of the vehicle and laid on the ground. So we watched the movie. We had gotten there so early that my dad got a bunch of drinks and food, and we had eaten it all before the movie even started. So the first movie ends, and about a half hour from the end, I had to use the bathroom really bad because we drank all the drinks and food and stuff before the movie started. So literally, I didn't even make it to the end of the movie, but I held it in. And on this night, it's a special evening. They do this every once in a while. They called it From Dusk Till Dawn. So they would play 3 movies back to back to back from sundown to sun up. So when the last movie finished, the sun would start to be coming up right after that. So anyway, I had to use the bathroom. The credits started to roll. I had held it in for so long. I jumped down off the van. I ran over to the men's bathroom, and there was already a line of probably 30 people in for the bathroom. So I stood there for some time waiting. And as people were using the bathroom, there were a lot of kids there that night. It was, I'd been there many times as a kid, or not many times, but I'd been there plenty of times as a kid. And this was the most busy I've ever seen it. It reminded me of the state fair, the amount of people that were there. I would say probably 100 cars. I mean, you might have had 7 rows of cars with, 15 to 20 cars in each when the movie started. So anyway, I'm standing in line for the bathroom. I'm waiting. There are all these men trying to help their kids use the bathroom, and it's taking forever. There's only one, I believe there's one or two stalls that are, men are using, and you've got, 3 urinals or 2 urinals, and you've got all these kids, and the fathers are trying to hold them up to the urinal, and it's an ordeal. So while I'm standing there, some men got in the line behind me, and they couldn't wait. And so they went around the building and peed on the back of the building, the concrete building, there's no lights back there, nothing. There's just a big field and then a forest. So they came around, they're patting each other on the back, they're laughing, they're buttoning themselves up. They're the 2 smartest men in the world. They beat the line. Then another family got behind me, and I was probably, I don't know how many from getting into the bathroom, maybe 10 or so. There might have been like 5 people in there and 5 people, outside or something. But I waited as long as I could. The credits were still rolling behind me. It takes maybe 10 minutes for the credits to kind of finish rolling. So anyway, I let the people behind me in front of me as like a good deed, because I knew I was going to pee my pants. I peed my pants several times at that age. My uncle used to take me on long haul truck driving trips sometimes, and I literally couldn't hold it, and there would be like nothing to pee in, and I would literally pee myself, and then he'd make fun of me and stuff like that. Really, I mean, and I like, there was one time we were caught in traffic and it happened, and I was like, I gotta pee, and he was like, I don't know what to tell you, and I peed myself. I should have just got out and peed in front of people. Like, that taught me a great lesson about like, if you gotta go, you gotta go. And so anyway, so I had already learned that lesson, right? And I'm like, I'm going to use the bathroom on myself, so I have to do something. So I let the people go in front of me in the line, and then I snuck around to where the men peed. But I was so scared of my father when I was a kid. He has some pretty severe anger issues. In fact, my family does in general. They have a nickname for it. It's pretty wild. It's, insane that they talk about it the way they talk about it over the years. Like it's like a known thing. It's so known that they gave it a nickname, and they discuss it at like Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. Or if somebody has like a freak out, they'll be like, oh, he's got I don't even want to tell you what it is. It's not a bad word, but I just want to leave that, out. So anyway, I go back there, excuse me, my nose is running a little bit today. All right, so today we're not doing editing today. So just so you know, I've already edited, I've already done 7 takes. So this is it, you guys. This is the 1 take. I'll do a bunch of editing on my other videos that I'm doing later on. So anyway, all right, the first movie's over. I jump down, I go to the bathroom, I can't hold it. I sneak around to the back of the building, and I'm so afraid of my father. If he catches me, he will beat me like crazy in front of all these people. And so I was like, I have to use the restroom, but I can't do it on the back of the building. So there's this big field in the forest, and basically my dad's kind of old school. If I peed on somebody else's property like that, he would punish me pretty severely. So I decided that I just need to make it to the trees. I didn't want to go. There were trees nearby, and I didn't want to go to those trees because I can't believe I'm going to do this, you guys. Did I get it? Did I get it, you guys? Did that work? Ew. Did I get it? Well, put it down in the comments below. All right, so gotta use the bathroom. I'm going across this field. It's like 18-inch grass. I'm wearing shorts, okay? I don't think I got it, you guys. I don't think I got it. Son of a gun. So anyway, I'm just trying to make it, right? And I'm so scared that somebody saw me sneak back there that as I'm kind of hurrying across this field, I keep looking back, if you've ever walked across a field of grass, you'll get seeds all over on your legs and stuff like that as you walk. The grass has a little bit of dew on it, and they'll get stuck to your legs. But I keep turning around to check to make sure nobody saw me. As I'm hurrying across the field, I got to the trees. The field was so large that I couldn't make it to the trees. I was going to just sneak behind a tree and use the restroom, and there was no way I could make it. So when I got to the point where I was like, it's now or never, I turned around and looked just to final check that nobody was behind me. And I was actually kind of surprised at how far I walked. I probably walked at least a football field or more, maybe almost 2 football fields. I turned around, I could see the drive-in movie theater screen in the distance. Now, when they have these screens, they put up slates, and it says, 45-minute intermission. So the movie ends, and then once the credits roll, they put up this slate. So I look back, it says 45-minute intermission. And then every 5 minutes they change it. So 45, 40, 35, so on and so forth. And so I see the screen, I turn back around, and I whip it out. And if you know anything about little boys, 11-year-old kids, they hold their privates with 2 hands because they're kids. I don't know why they do this, but they do. So I'm still at that age, so I pulled it out and I use the restroom. I'm holding it with 2 hands. I get some pee on me. When I was peeing, the grass was so tall, my stream hit the grass and it caused the grass to bend forward and flick pee on my shins. So I stepped back and readjusted to make sure I wasn't getting any pee on myself. And literally after I did that, I'm still holding myself. I hear noise right in front of me. It sounded like 2 steps, 1, 2 in tall grass. So anyway, a truck's going by. It's much louder than normal. So anyway, I hear this, and like I said, no cuts today. All right, no editing. So I hear this, and by the way, I know that this episode will be, it's going to be the most entertaining one so far, because look at what's happening. All right, it's a chaos over here. So anyway, I hear this noise in front of me. It's like 6 feet away. It's just 2 steps. It just literally sounds like a person took 2 steps. I initially thought it must be a deer because, we grew up in the woods. We grew up cutting down trees and splitting firewood and things like that, driving trucks in the field when you're way too young, when you're so young that you almost crashed the truck and your grandfather starts screaming at you and because you couldn't press the brake hard enough. That's that's where we came from. So I hear this noise. I think, well, it must be a deer that was bedded down in the grass that I've scared, right? So I look up, and it's not a deer. It's a gray alien about 6 feet away from me. It was standing slightly sideways towards me with its long arms kind of hanging down beside it. I lock eyes with it, and I start to step back because I'm scared of whatever this is. And I'm still peeing. I'm still very much urinating at the time. Oh my goodness, you guys. Did I get it? Woo! What are we gonna do, you guys? So anyway, I see this creature. I step back. I'm still peeing. I look into its eyes, and then I black out. When I come to, I'm in a forest and I am running for my life. I'm already running, I'm already sweating, I'm already scared, and in my mind I'm yelling I gotta get away, they're gonna take me, I gotta run, where am I? I'm gonna hit a tree. I knew I was in the forest, but I didn't know where I was. It was so dark, there was no moonlight that night, that I was scared I was gonna run straight into a tree. And just as I started to panic about running into a tree and figure out where I was, I broke into a field. As soon as I broke into that field, I saw the drive-in in front of me. I was at least 500 yards away from where I blacked out, at least, maybe a little bit further. So I point my body towards my father's van, which is standing. It's almost twice the height of every vehicle in the parking lot. So it sticks out like a sore thumb. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And I point my body towards it, and as I'm running, I don't even get maybe 30 yards or something, I slam into something with my right shoulder, and it literally knocks me off to my left side. If you ever see people playing football and hit each other's shoulders, like bump each other's shoulders, so it flings me to the left side, and I kind of stagger. I put my hand down, and I don't fall, but I just get smashed on my whole right side, my leg, my torso, and my right arm. And when that happened, I kind of looked up. I kept running. I didn't want to I didn't want to stop running. I was so scared. So I kept running, and I looked out, and there was just a slight glint from the movie theater, from the projector in the theater, of all these different like poles of some kind. There were grids of them. I mean, there had to be over 100 or more of these poles. And so when I realized that they were in this grid formation, instead of running towards my father's vehicle, I turned my body and ran down the row so I wouldn't hit these poles. I didn't know it at the time, but later on I found out that there were 2 movie theaters. When they had originally opened in like the 50s or 60s, whenever it was, they had radios. They had these metal poles with radios hanging off, and you would hang it in your car. Since I was so young back then, I had no idea what that was. So I literally just didn't understand what I ran into. Anyway, so I bounce off this pole. I see that they're in a row. I turn my body. Well, now because I'm pointed my body in a different direction, the very first vehicle is this kind of maroon minivan. I run up to it. It's the farthest one on the left side of the theater towards the forest that I had just run out of, which once again is even further away from where I blacked out. When I ran up to it, I saw a man in the driver's seat, and I realized that I couldn't jump in and hide with him, and that's all I wanted was to hide. I was terrified of what just happened. So I ran around the back of his vehicle and ripped the door open. When I ripped that door open, his entire family screamed. Now, I was trying to rip it open and just jump in and hide because I was so scared of what I had just witnessed. There was a young girl about my age, maybe a year older, sitting Indian style on the floor with a big white t-shirt. There was a woman in the passenger side and a man in the driver's side. When I ripped open the door and they started screaming, they started cussing at me and like, who the hell's kid is this, and all sorts of stuff. And it freaked me out. Like, they yelled so loud when I ripped the door open that it startled me, and I stuttered. And they were like, what the hell are you doing? Cussing. And I literally am holding the sliding door, and I'm just going, like stuttering because I was literally so startled. And I literally said, wrong car. And I shut the door and I slammed it so hard. I didn't mean to. I was just not in a good state. So I slammed the door, and then the wife and the husband just start cussing at me as I walk away. Somebody needs to come over here and get their kids, and they said some stuff, and I get it, but they didn't understand what just happened to me, and they just assumed I was some kid fooling around. Not to mention they were startled. They didn't notice me run out of the darkness around the back of their van. They were watching the movie. So I can only imagine, I don't blame them at all. But so this happens. At this point, I'm confused. I don't know why I did that. I'm like, why did I do that? I don't understand. And I'm walking over towards my dad's vehicle, and I'm just staring at my feet as I walk, and I'm just shaking my head like, what just happened? I couldn't understand. When I saw that creature, it was like a second had passed, and I blacked out and woke up hundreds of yards away from where I just was. I wasn't even in the field anymore. I was in the woods in a completely different direction. And then I didn't understand why I tried to hide in these people's vehicle. Like, I couldn't understand it. I'm thinking about what happened. Now, I do remember more. When this first happened and I blacked out, I didn't remember everything that happened. So for me, as I'm thinking about this, it was, I saw the creature, I took a few steps back, it started to talk to me. I can't remember what it said. I can't. Like, do not be afraid, we're not here to harm you. But then it kind of gets, it's like when you drink too much alcohol and you kind of have a spotty memory. I remember, the next thing I remember is following it across the field. It was in front of me, I was behind it. I don't know why I would ever go with it. Then I remember going through the forest and there being a craft on the ground there was a craft on the ground in a clearing, and then I remember going up into it, following this creature into it, but then I black out, and then I that's the only memory I've had since I was a kid. But it didn't, like I said, when it first happened, it was I didn't remember that until several minutes after it happened, when I was thinking to myself, I was like, what just happened? And then I kind of was trying to piece it together, and that's what I remembered, but I still don't remember everything. So I walk over to my father's van. He's got the window down, his arm on the side. He sees me and he goes, "Oh, there you are. Where have you been? We almost sent somebody to come looking for you." And I was so lost in thought as I was trying to think about what just happened to me. I went around the back of the van. I didn't even answer him. I was just thinking about what had just happened. And as I was walking to the van, I could hear the movie playing, but I wasn't paying attention to that either. I was just so lost in thought about what had just transpired. And I'm like, what was that? Like, what happened to me? I don't realize that I'm missing time either. I have not figured that out yet. For me, it felt like a second had passed. It literally like a long blink, and then I was somewhere different. I walked around the side of the van. I climbed up to the top, and I started watching the movie. As soon as I started watching the movie, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. If you want to know what this feels like, pick any movie that you've never seen and just watch the last 5-10 minutes of it. The conversations at the end of the movie, you have no idea what's going on, because the entire beginning of the movie is the setup, so that way you understand the context. Without any context, I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how did I miss the beginning of the movie? Like, I had 45 minutes, and I'm like, what? How did I miss the movie? Like, and I'm thinking, like, how long has it been playing for? Like, how much time have I missed? I was only up there maybe 30 seconds a minute thinking about this, and my dad reaches up above the driver's side window and taps me on my arm multiple times. He says, "Hey, what's that?" And he points out the left window, the driver's side window, and above the forest, right where all this happened. We're gonna get him, you guys. What a broadcast. Anyway, so I'm there. I didn't get him. Woo! Okay. So, anyway, I'm watching the movie, and my dad taps me on the shoulder as I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the movie, how I missed so much of the movie. Yo, you guys. Did I get it? This is my life. So anyway, I look over. There's a UFO. It's flying over the forest. My button is broken. This is a calamity. Oh my goodness, you guys. Oh man. Thank God my channel's so small. I mean, it's such a small channel. Nobody will ever see this. That's the best part. Nobody will ever know. Just you and me, baby. You and my 5 subscribers. So anyway, my dad taps me and goes, "Hey, what's that?" He points out the window. I'm just gonna let the fly be, okay? And I'll deal with him a little later. So I look over from the top of the van, and this luminescent object is flying over the forest horizontally, really slow, by the way. I would say this UFO sighting lasted about 3 minutes or so. So as it's flying, it starts to change color, it starts to grow in size, and imagine you're watching this thing, and now you're kind of transfixed. I completely forgot about everything that had happened before. I mean, this was a UFO sighting, so you put all that other stuff away. And as I'm watching it fly over the forest and grow in size and change colors, then there was like an explosion. When it exploded, it almost instantaneously made a right angle turn about an 80, not quite 90 degrees, but an 80 to 90 degree right angle turn, and shot into space in a fraction of a second. When this happened, all of a sudden there was a big, huge burst of noise. A bunch of people went, "Whoa!" and yelled out. And it startled me. I was watching this thing so intently for so long that I hadn't realized that every single person that was awake at the time, I mean, you have a few dozen vehicles there. All the people had stopped what they were doing was watching this. And when this thing shot into space, they all reacted the same way. It was very similar to like if there's a fight in school and somebody gets knocked out and everybody goes, "Oh." I looked around because I was startled and realized that there was at least 2 dozen adult witnesses, all standing around pointing at this object. People that were coming to and from the bathroom or the concession stand. There was a car in front of us where a man was hanging out the driver's side window with his stomach pointing. And then the passenger side, the female had gotten out the window. She was sitting on the doorway with her arms on the roof of the car. And she was pointing. Everybody was responding to this object. Now, once it shot off, my dad, who has had his own UFO encounters and does not like UFOs, he's very, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think he's very traumatized by his experiences. But anyway, so anytime a UFO kind of happens, he's like, "Okay, time to go, time to get out of here." So this thing shoots off, the movie ends. So now I realize that I missed a 45-minute intermission. I've missed an entire hour-and-a-half long movie, basically just the last, few minutes of the movie. So I've got 2 hours of missing time. And my dad's like, "Okay, time to leave. There's a UFO. Like, we're getting out of here." So I jump down. I get into the van. I see the clock, 2:22, and I actually watched it change from 2:22 to 2:23. And I remember that very distinctly. We had like a little digital clock in the van. All of my brothers and things that were awake started complaining, like, "You said we could stay and watch all 3 movies." And my stepmother sided with the kids and was like arguing with my father a little bit. My father relented and was like, "Okay, fine, we'll watch the last movie, but here's the deal. You need to pick up all the blankets and chairs and all that stuff, put them in the back of the van, pick up all your trash, because if you guys fall asleep, I'm driving home." Right? So my dad wanted everybody in the van, so that way if he needed to drive off for any reason, he could. I don't think it has anything to do with if people fall asleep. I think he has the same reaction every time a UFO shows up. Every single time. He has the exact same reaction. Like, it's time to leave. Every time. So anyway, my dad tells me to go get some food, some more concessions, right? It's been 3 hours since we bought concessions. He gives me $20. The other kids clean up. He sends me to the concession stand to grab stuff. As I'm walking there are groups of people, like 5 here, 6 here, 7 there. These are adults, and they're all talking about the object. There was a woman that was talking to one group of people. She went over to another group of people, a larger group, and was like, "They all saw it too." It's like a busybody kind of. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. So I go to the concession stand. There's a group there. I stand behind them, just a few feet away from them, because at first I thought they were in line for the concession stand, and I think they might have been, but they were talking about what had just happened. And so as they're sitting there talking about what they had just witnessed, I'm standing behind them with this $20 in my hand listening. There was a young couple, and they were talking about what they had saw. I mean, everybody's agreeing that they saw this object. They're all saying the same thing. It was the fastest thing they've ever seen in their entire life. What do you think it could be? Like, rockets can't move that fast, and all this stuff. I mean, we watched this thing go into space. If you want to know what it flew off like, just imagine a shooting star and then turn it upside down, and put the object much closer to you. This thing shot off at what could only be described as tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. Somebody once asked me, "Well, how do you know it was, so fast?" If you've ever watched a rocket launch from start to finish, they take sometimes 20 minutes before the rocket disappears into space. Literally, at the end of the rocket launch, that object is now going, 15,000 miles an hour or faster, and it still takes all that time for it to disappear in the sky. This object shot off in a fraction of a second. It streaked up into the sky. It had lights on the outside of it. it streaked as it flew away. So anyway, I'm standing at the concession stand. You got these people, and they're standing there talking about what had just happened. One of the younger people, there's a young couple. One of the females says, "Well, do you think it's the military?" And an old, skinny, kind of peppered hair, maybe mid 40s kind of guy, snapped, right? Like he snipped. He said, "I've been in the Air Force my entire life, and we don't have anything that can do that," right? And then the guy next to him was like this biker looking dude. He was like, "Oh, I was in the Navy from this year to that year," right? And they kind of just started talking about their military careers or whatever. But this guy had the swagger of an officer. If you've ever met a military officer before or been around them, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't think he really was in the military his whole life, by the way. I think he was just saying, like, since I got out of high school, I've been in the military, a 20-year guy or whatever. But yeah, he was like, "We don't have anything that could fly like that. Like, we just don't have it." So they noticed me after a while listening to them, and they were like, "Hey, you can go in front of us." And they kind of waved me into the concession stand. I got the food, came back, gave it to my father, and then I eventually fell asleep. But you have a minimum of 24 witnesses there that night, possibly many more, that saw this happen. And to my knowledge, there isn't a single person that reported this besides me reporting it to you now. My father and stepmother certainly aren't going to report it. Most of my family that have had these experiences refuse to come forward. And so really, it's just my story. But I do believe out of all those people, I believe that if this video gets around, that one of those people that were there that night, and I've left the description out, so that way I've kept it fairly vague so I can vet whether a person was actually there or not. But I believe that, if this video gets out and my story gets out to enough people, some of these witnesses will come forward one day. But anyway, this story and many more are in my book, Violence Will Not Be Tolerated, an alien abduction story. You can find the description if you'd like. And that's it for us today. We hope you have a good one. If you'd like to support our channel, go to the description or in the pinned comment down below. That's the unacceptable news. Don't like, don't subscribe, just run.